Mark, I'll start with training this week. How's things been? I imagine a bit of a lift after Saturday's result.
Yeah, we were delighted with the win, obviously, and it was important for the lads that we got that elusive home win. We've been waiting long enough for it, so we got the result, the performance for the most part, what we wanted on the day, and now we've got a difficult away game, but another home game to follow, which obviously we want to follow with another win.
I imagine momentum is a big part for you now as you close out this season and looking ahead to next season.
Yeah, well, I mentioned momentum, and probably sick and tired of me saying the same thing about it, but it is vitally important, and I've been really pleased with the work that we've been able to put into the guys. I think most people can see that it's evident in our play now that we're playing in a different way, a way that I think once we get it really strong in terms of being able to do the things we talk about and work on in training, once we're able to integrate that and we're doing those things automatically, then we'll become a really good team. So I'm encouraged by what's been a good start, but next year will be the test. Obviously, we need to really hit the ground running next year.
I remember when you first came to the club, one of the things that you wanted to improve was obviously the ball retention and having that possession more so, and I think you spoke about it being like second nature, the movements when they have the ball. How have the squad developed in that area, do you feel, to now?
Yeah, it only comes from the work they do on the training ground and their ability to show that in the games. When we play, it's about repetition. If you do things correctly often enough, then it becomes ingrained, and then you can do. And I say it's not without thinking, because you do always think on a football pitch. It's about doing things that maybe sometimes your mind tells you don't do it because it's hard work, but because you've done it and you've repeated it so many times, you just do it without thinking and get the work done. So we'll build on that obviously in pre-season when we come back, and hopefully people will see another change in our play when we hit the ground running.
We spoke after the Scunthorpe game about that particularly 30-minute period in the first half where you were so dominant and you were cutting open their defence at will at times. How close was that to where you want this Bradford City side to be? Yeah,
I think it was close. It's obviously not where the final outcome will be, because we want to be able to sustain it for 90 minutes, and we weren't able to do that against Scunthorpe for whatever reason. But I think the opening period, as you said, was really strong from us. It's close to the type of football I want us to be able to produce on a regular basis, and for the full 90, as I've already mentioned. I think if we're able to do that, then the reaction from our fans will be huge. I think they really enjoyed clearly scoring after, I think, 18 seconds always helps that in that regard. But I just think they really enjoyed that opening period, and if we can repeat that, which there's no reason why we can't, then we'll have a good season. We'll enjoy playing at Valley Parade. It's been difficult for whatever reason, and I found it, and I think maybe we had a little bit of scar tissue to a certain extent, where we certainly maybe against Scunthorpe we went a little bit safe because we weren't under any great pressure, but at 2-1 you always think, well, it only needs one moment from the opposition and they get lucky and they're back on level terms. So that was probably in the back of the minds of the players. But we need to shed that and get rid of that thinking for next year, and make sure that we've got a real body of work at home and good results behind us, and that will really help us over the length of the season, because home form is always crucial. Everybody knows that. If we can improve our home form markedly, which is our intention, then we'll have a good season.
How do you go about shaking off that scar tissue, as you put it, in respect to playing at Valley Parade? And does that factor in to how you recruit players this summer?
Yeah, I think there's an acknowledgement that you've got to have a little bit about you to play at Valley Parade. It's the biggest stage in League Two in terms of crowd and the stadium itself. So you've got to be able to deal with expectation as well. So Yeah, in terms of recruitment, so there'll be a freshness to the squad anyway. So a lot of maybe that scarring that I've said and talked about will be diluted to a certain extent because we'll have fresh bodies in the building and guys that will be desperate to play in front of big crowds, because those are the type of players hopefully we'll be able to bring to the club next year.
It's a repetitive question, I know, but as time ticks on, recruitment grows larger in terms of how close it comes to the window. How are things progressing in that area?
Yeah, we're doing very well. We're very close to publicising the head of recruitment appointment, so I think that'll probably happen at some point next week, and then we can really start in earnest. But clearly, we've been working, myself, Glyn and Ryan, previous to what we hope will be the appointments we hope to make. So yeah, we're nearly there. It's exciting time. It'll be a lot of hard work for a lot of people, but the key is being able to get the right people through the door and make sure we're in good shape once the kick-off comes around.
How does it compare with the recruitment drive of a Premier League side and dealing with different markets?
I think there's a lot more churn in terms of players going out and players coming in. I think at the higher level it's more about retaining the players to retain the value for the club at times. So that's why they more often they've got longer contracts, and contracts aren't allowed to come to a conclusion, because then you lose the value in the player. Whereas at League 2 level, probably League 1 as well, it seems that there's very few 3-4 year contracts on the table for players. It's very much 12-month and 24-month deals. So that churn of players happens every year, and you've got to be in the mix and make sure you get the cream of that if you can.
And on that trend then, how are prospective conversations progressing with players that you would like to keep that are out of a deal?
Yeah, we've progressed a number of conversations. We haven't started other conversations only because there's a lot of planning that needs to go in. There's only so much in the budget for player acquisition, so we've got to be mindful of that. And sometimes you've got to cut your cloth accordingly. Sometimes you have to wait for players if you sense that they might be coming available at a later point. Obviously, you can't wait too long because you've got to obviously make sure you're covered and not weak in positions. But yeah, it's quite exciting in terms of I've not gone through it in these terms really, or worked within these barriers. So I'm quite excited about it. It does give you an opportunity to refresh the squad and get some good energy into the team and the club, and I think that's a good thing. There's always a turnover of players at every club and at every level, and you always feel that change in the atmosphere when all the players come back in the summer and they're ready to go again, some for the first time at your club. So that enthusiasm and energy that new players bring is always welcome.
I wanted to ask you about two players individually. Both played a part in the goal after 18 seconds on Saturday. First of all, Charles Vernon, who of course got the second as well. Just how important has he been since you've arrived at the club, and what he's been able to show, and what potential does he have as a player moving forward?
Well, I've been very impressed by Charles. He's played that initially we had to manage because obviously he had an issue with injuries, and we were able to introduce him slowly and at the correct pace, and I think that's helped him. It's given him encouragement and trust in maybe myself, in terms that I won't just throw players back in and maybe put them at risk. It's always about making sure they're ready and capable to take on the workload of not only training but clearly the 90 minutes in a match. So he's been able to get through that period and without fail, when he's started games or when he's come on in games, he's always made an impact. So he's been one of the standout players for me, really.
And with Jamie Walker, the other player that I wanted to ask you about, obviously his contractual situation, I believe, is up with Hearts this summer, his parent club currently. Is there an appetite to maybe explore the opportunity of keeping him at Bradford City?
Yeah, Jamie's one of those players that we would like to progress if we can, but he's just coming off a contract that's maybe beyond what we can match. But it's not. I don't think it's always about finance. It shouldn't be, because at times it's about making the right career decisions for yourself and your family, and sometimes being able to see the opportunity to play maybe regularly, or rather than maybe earning more money to going somewhere else, but not guaranteed that you won't get too much game time. So all these things have to come into the mix. Jamie's got a lot to consider, but he's made a real impression on everybody, not only on the pitch or off it, but off it as well. So we'll see what happens, but Jamie's come here and had an impact, and that's what you want when players come to your club.
Would it be fair to say that Charles falls under that category as well, as a player that you'd like to...
Charles is one that, obviously, as I've already mentioned, it's one of those situations. The reality is when your good players, the players that make an impact for you, they become coveted by other clubs as well. So we've got that to contend with. But we want our better players, obviously, to stay at the club, the ones that are contracted at the moment.
In the more immediate future, team news-wise, ahead of Saturday, how are you shaping up?
Pretty much same availability as last week. There's no fallers from last week. I think we talked after the game. Elliot Watts had a bang, and Jamie himself had a bang on his back, or landed on his back, but they were trained all week, so they're available. Probably the only one missing is Oscar. I think he's the only one.
We spoke with Fikra a little earlier, and I know you were impressed with him in the short stint that he had down at Colchester, and he, I suppose, somewhat backed that up against Scunthorpe on Saturday. A player that's had to be patient, really, not only under your tenure, but the whole season as well. Shows great temperament and yet calmness whenever you speak with him. Is that something that you've seen yourself?
Yeah, I mean, as a personality, Fikra is great. I mean, for the first couple of weeks, I was happy that I was able to call him Kells, because his Christian name was a little bit difficult for everybody, but we finally got over that. So, yeah, he's a great personality around the place. Everybody enjoys his company, and he's a good professional as well. Even though he's had to be patient and bided his time, it didn't affect the way he came into work every single day, and the way he performed in training sessions. He was always ready. I always knew that when and if I needed to call on him, there wouldn't be a problem, because he trains correctly and he prepares as you would expect a professional to prepare. And so he hasn't disappointed me in any way in that regard, because he's been excellent. So I was pleased I was able to give him the opportunity to play. So it was important for him and important for me just to get that opportunity to see him in game time. And I think he's done really well. He's with us next year anyway, so he's got time to really stay to claim. But I think he's been encouraged by what he's been able to produce towards the end of the year. Yeah,
and has he given himself every opportunity of continuing that opportunity that he's got right now to carry on? I
would like to think he will think that, but he knows that there'll be competition for places. We're trying to make ourselves better than we are at the moment. That will mean obviously going into the market, and we'll see what's out there, but the key is obviously having good characters and good professionals within the group, and with Kells, clearly that's what we've got.
Just finally from me, a word on Sutton, your opponents this Saturday. I believe they've got the best home record currently in English football, which is...
Yeah, no, they're a good side. Get a lot of balls into the box. We're going to have to defend well, and on occasions we just got to be mindful. We've just got to clear our lines at times, because they will put us under pressure. They're good on set players as well, so a lot of their goals come from that. So if we do that part, defend crosses in the box, defend our set plays, then I would like to think we'll at some point we'll certainly get a foothold in the game and be able to play the type of football that we want to play. And best form of defending is being in possession of the ball, so they can't score if you've got the ball. So that's our intention. We'll respect what they can do to us, but as I said, if we get a foothold in the game, I think we'll cause some problems.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Sutton, as you said, like to get the ball in the box and stuff, and they've still got plenty to play for.
Mm-hmm.
Is that beneficial to Bradford in that they are going to have to come at you?
Yeah, I think so. And we've obviously very fresh in our mind is the Colchester game and what we produced in terms of a performance, which was poor. I think we're all honest in that regard and accepted that. So we'll endeavour to make sure that we don't perform anywhere near that level again, because if we do, then clearly we'll get beaten again. So because it's fresh in our mind, I don't anticipate that there'll be a repeat of that, because clearly I was unhappy with the level that we produced last time out away from home. The players themselves were as well, because they know they were better than they were able to show on the day. So I think we'll all see a vast improvement in our performance, in our away performance against Sutton.
And just touching on recruitment again, do you have in your mind a number of players you want in the squad for the next season, all things being?
Yeah, I think that's important. So sometimes when the group is too big, it gets unmanageable in terms of numbers and what you're trying to do in training sessions. Sometimes you have to double up, and it's not ideal. Sometimes the numbers don't work because like at the moment, thankfully we've got everybody fitting well, but on occasions you got 24 outfield players, and that doesn't lend itself to 11v11s or whatever. Some guys are standing on the touchline, so sometimes you have to compromise your training session to include everybody. So we've got in mind what we think we need, but we're mindful of the fact that League Two is a long season, hard season, and we've got to make sure the numbers are right and of the right quality, because clearly, hopefully we don't lose too many. We'll manage injuries well, but it's a long, hard season, so you know you'll on occasions you'll lose people, so you're going to have to make sure the numbers are right.
Okay, thanks very much.
Like we saying obviously that the contracts at this level longer, 12 or 21, 24 months, I mean, is that something you'll be looking at for when you bring players in that sort of length, rather than going perhaps looking a bit longer?
Possibly. I think it's we can have conversations about that, I think, and see where we're comfortable with in terms of the team itself and the club as well, because we're mindful that we have to manage the resources we've got. But I just think the key is getting the guys over the threshold of the ones that we want. If it's 12 months or if it's 24 months or even longer possibly, then so be it. But the key is to get the right players at the right level of finance that we can comfortably cope with, and get them over the threshold in the club ready to go. Yeah, albeit if it's for 12 months, so be it. If it's for longer, great.
You're sort of saying about you've got to be quite strong to play at Valley Parade, you know. I mean, yourself, you enjoyed that pressure. Obviously, some players find it more difficult. I mean, how easy is it to sort of, when you're sitting down with a prospective signing, to sort of almost look into their eyes and sort of think you've got the character I need? I mean, how can you sort of judge that character?
I think you do get a good sense. Obviously, the playing career prior to coming to the club is taken into consideration, what level they've played at, who they've played at, what impact they've had at other clubs maybe, and the longevity of their contract of their career at certain levels. I think you can glean that. Some players will enjoy playing for us, but others will come with not having that level of exposure to a big crowd, big stadium, and expectation as well, which there'll be a lot of next year, which we need to deal with. But I would like to think I'd get a really good idea even before we got to discuss coming to the club or terms, or prior to them actually signing. I think we will have done our due diligence and get a real understanding of their ability to deal with what we have here. And there's plenty of players that I'm sure would really relish the opportunity to play in front of big crowds in a big stadium, and that's what we can offer to players. So it should never be anything that you're frightened of. That's the excitement of playing for Bradford, is being able to walk out in big crowds and I've experienced it already. When we do get it right, then the crowd's right behind us, and why wouldn't you enjoy that?
I think some of your predecessors have often taken players out and stood them in the centre circle as they just look round and sort of...
Yeah, you
look at that.
you can do that, and I think it's basically something that you can glean something from it. I think I'm trying to think what Jamie Walker said when he was showed round, and he was actually he wasn't starry-eyed and looking around the stadium. He was just quite matter of fact when he said, "What do you think?" And I think that probably illustrates that it doesn't faze him. It doesn't faze him. So I think he's showing that he's quite comfortable in the surroundings that he finds himself. So that's probably the reaction you're looking for when you talk about looking in their eyes and seeing if they've got the mettle for the job.
And yourself, obviously, you've been in the job a couple of months. I mean, how much do you feel you've learned in terms of coaching at this level now, and just in terms of being back in football?
Well, I've really enjoyed it, first and foremost. I think people from the outside viewed it as maybe a different step than they anticipated myself doing, but I just saw it as a real opportunity to get back and start working again. With a club of potential, I wanted to come back and maybe have a different challenge in terms of the clubs and situations I found myself at previous clubs. So this is a different type of challenge. It's about building a team and getting a team out of this league that we found ourselves in, and that's a great challenge for me, and something probably I haven't been through. It's been different types of challenges, albeit still difficult ones.
I haven't woken up yet this morning and thought, what am I doing?
No, I'm still bright and breezy, 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it's great fun at that time. But I think I said to myself, I'd know very, very quickly because obviously I was out for nigh on 3 years, and I was conscious of the fact that I might get back into a role and find that I haven't got the enthusiasm or the energy to do it anymore. But that's not the case, thankfully. So I'm pleased with that. So I'm sticking around.
And the Saturday morning buzz when you get up on a match.
Yeah, that's the key for me. That's the thing that I really missed. It's all well and good and watching games and not being in the mix, so to speak. Saturday mornings, game of golf doesn't really hack it when you've been used to preparing for an important game, a game of significance, and that's the key on a Saturday. Saturday at 3 o'clock is when it happens.